Hey guys, it's Evan from Evan K Exotics, and it's early February 2025. And today's a really exciting day for me because I have Lisa Benson from Benson's Boa on with me via Zoom today. And I have to really tell you, I just love Lisa and what she's doing with her animals right now. I have this really fun picture of you, Lisa, and me, and Mark Busby, who's another keeper that's right at the top of my list of favorite boa keepers. And it's the three of us at the Manchester Reptile
I
Expo.
remember that.
And I posted it up. I posted it up on my Facebook post with something that was like three boa nerds that go to Manchester. And you know, I talked to you via Zoom about a week or two ago, and we just geeked out about boas, and it was so much fun. And you are just a keeper after my own heart. You focus on locality boas. You focus on caging and excellent quality enrichment. And I just think what you're doing is so wonderful that I'm glad that you're here and willing to share what you're doing because I think that you're inspiring to everybody. And I think that it's something that my viewers would like to see. And the other thing I will tell you is that Lisa is very active on Facebook and on Instagram, and that she just unveiled a YouTube channel as well. So watch out, guys. It's going to be wild. It's going to be so cool. So please welcome Lisa Benson to Evan K Exotics. And Lisa, would you take a minute to tell people what you want them to know about you?
Sure. Thank you so much, Evan, for the kind words. That was a great day in Manchester. I had so much fun meeting people in person, and Evan is very tall, if you don't know. I was like looking up. But yes, I am Lisa Benson, and I am Benson's Boas all by myself. I retired early from a career in software engineering. I was actually an electrical engineer by degree, and I'd begun building my collection a few years before I retired. I knew it was something I wanted to do. And I knew that I wanted to, hit the ground running, so to speak. And so I had started my collection before I retired. And actually, my office gradually was being taken over by boas and getting warmer and warmer as I got later in my career. It was funny. But aside from boas, I have two horses at home, and I also have two Jack Russell Terriers, which keep me laughing all the time. And I play pickleball 4 days a week, so I'm very active with that. And yeah, that's kind of who I am.
That's what, I didn't even know you were into terriers. I love the little terrier dogs.
Oh, they have so much spunk.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
great.
Well, you are p horses, locality boa constrictors, and Jack Russells. That's a wide repertoire of animals. So you are a top-notch animal person, not just a boa person. That's pretty cool. One thing I really wanted you to tell my viewers about is you were talking about how when you were younger, you used to like mend snakes and things that you found in the yard. Do you want to tell people about that? I thought that was a super charming
Yeah.
piece of your
Well,
history.
growing up, I always loved reptiles. I think it started, I was one of those kids that really liked dinosaurs. And, I had all the plastic models of dinosaurs. I knew every single dinosaur name. And, I was always reading them, studying about them. And, and I had a lot of, animals, the American animals, growing up, we had cats and we lived in a wooded area, and the cats would always go off and catch things and bring them back. Look, Mom, look what I caught.
Mhm.
And of course, so we would end up with all assortment of animals that they would bring back in various states of injury or sometimes just shock, from being picked up and brought back. And so one of the things I would do is I would learn about, what it was they had retrieved, kind of assess, what damages had been done, and then try to, get them back to a point where I could re-release them in a safe spot. And so in doing so, I learned a lot about the native, especially I really like the reptiles. I learned a lot about the native snakes in the area, and they were mostly, there was a lot of garter snakes,
Mhm.
but we had an eastern hognose, some water snakes,
Beautiful.
even a racer. So,
Oh.
I built in, little enclosures for them. Some of them, were modifications to garbage, plastic garbage pails. Some of them were wooden boxes back then. There weren't fancy animal plastics cages.
Sure.
But I would, I read about, what they ate, and, provide them with any kind of, whatever kind of habitat I could think of to provide them. And as soon as I thought they were doing well, I would release them again. And it was just something I really enjoyed doing. And that's kind of, I think, where I started with my love of, snakes and handling snakes. And then, later on, I got the opportunity to handle a boa, and I was like, I just fell in love.
Yeah, yeah, that happens, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. I think that people that come from, if you're coming into the hobby now, it's pretty established and fleshed out. But I think that if you're coming into, if you were somebody that liked snakes 20 years ago or whenever, it was not quite the same way as it was. And I think that that was really where a lot of learning happened. Not to say it's not still happening, but I really like how you were just figuring that out. Like I tell people, when I started keeping, I was like at the cusp of when there was reptiles as a hobby, and there were
Yes.
people that used it. I'm not like an OG herper or an old school herper, but it was at the time. Like for example, I remember spray painting incandescent light bulbs with black barbecue paint
Yes.
to
Yes,
make,
I remember that.
like stuff like that. So it's
Yep.
just um and I was when I say I have a long view of experience, I think I'm kind of like you in that. I've been tangled up in snakes for a long time, but not necessarily in that like heavy industrialized production setting. So
Right.
it's just really cool to see how that kind of built your chop. You earned your chops there, built your skills, and transferred it on. So I think that's really amazing. I think it's important that people know this because they're going to want to find you. How would they find you on social media, or where's the best places to learn about you?
Yeah, so I have a pretty regular presence on Instagram, and that's under Benson's Boas. And
Beautiful.
then on Facebook, I'm Lisa Benson.
Perfect.
And on YouTube, I'm under Benson's Boas underscore locality Boas.
Beautiful, beautiful. And just so you know, I will be putting those links in the description of this video. So if you do nothing else tonight, if you're watching this, please go and subscribe to our YouTube channel because you're going to start to see content that's just going to be valuable to you. So
Thank you so much, Evan.
I think that's great. Oh, you're very welcome, and thank you. This is not something that I'm doing for you. I'm doing it because I think that you have something to bring to my channel, and I think that you have something to bring to the hobby. So, I don't know about you, but I'm not monetizing this hobby right now, and my pure goal is just to be out there in a positive way and join forces with like-minded people. So you're
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Boas are my passion, and my really a big part of my mission is to show other people how amazing these creatures are. And there's so much prejudice and fear that's just built in to people. And I don't totally understand where it comes from, because to me, I mean, look at this guy. He's just sitting here, just hanging out, and he's wonderful. And to me, they are such a peaceful, wonderful creature. And I get such a wonderful relaxation from them, um, that it's hard for me to understand where that fear and that some of the hatred that you see out there comes from. Um, so part of my mission is to share, my love for them with the public, in a hope that it'll rub off, that people will understand and see this natural beauty. I mean, the patterns and the colors on these guys are just, they're exquisite. They're living works of art.
I couldn't agree more. And I think my experience has been that even fearful people, when they meet somebody that's as knowledgeable and as responsible as you are, and as passionate about it, and as how do you say, you have a really great disarming way of bringing people to the point of being curious about a snake or willing to hold a snake or something like that. I think your mission is accomplishing your mission is a foregone conclusion at this point with what I see you're in.
Yes, I
Um,
hope so.
yeah, I know so. Um, well, I gotta say. I don't think you know this gentleman personally, but I have a personal friend named Doug Cranick who's very active in the Maine Herpetological Society for a long time, has been in the news for his work with bringing snakes into the classroom. He's a public school teacher for a long time until he retired. Doug and you are the prototypes for my retirement.
Oh, nice.
I just if my retirement was something looked something like between the combination of your twos, I will be very fortunate. So I think that I'm just so happy for you that your life has brought you to the point where you've chosen. I think you used the word I've chosen to commit my retirement to these animals,
Yes,
and
absolutely.
you know on to that end. You've been putting out a lot of content and you're starting to develop that, but there's a huge project that you just finished. You're actually in the
Ah,
middle of your project right now. You're sitting in it. Do you want to kind of tease people and tell them what you just finished?
absolutely. It is, this is a wonderful space I'm sitting in. And it's actually, there's more than one room here. It's actually three rooms. And really what it's about, and I have a video, my first YouTube video that I put out was about the design and construction of this space. But originally, I was in a second floor room in this house. It was a 16 by 12 spare bedroom, and it had carpet on the floor. And anyone who's a snake keeper knows that carpet on the floor is not ideal
No.
for a number of reasons. But yeah, I had carpet on the floor, and I had enclosures stacked from floor to ceiling on every single wall. And you know, I called those, the ones at the ceiling were the penthouse enclosures, and I
Right.
had to climb ladders to get to them.
Sure.
And you know, which is not ideal. And the other problem was that the room was on the house heating system.
Oh, yeah, that's hard.
So, you know, so I was always fighting the air conditioning and the heating in the house.
Hmm.
And so I had, you know, blocked vents. I had, yeah, I had all, you know, I was always worried about vents. And I had an oil filled heater. When the air conditioning would come on, I would fight it with the oil filled heater.
Yeah.
So, you know, and I couldn't close the door to the room because then it would overheat from all the radiant heat panels.
Hmm.
So there, you know, there were, even though, you know, the room looked really nice and I would love to sit in there, it was cramped.
Hmm.
My, you know, animal density was too high. And I think you spoke to that in your recent video on air quality.
Oh,
The animal
yeah.
density was too high. And I always felt like no matter where I turned, when I was holding a large snake, they could easily get into, you know, a spot that I didn't want them to get into.
Yeah.
You know how they are.
Yeah, a
And
boa on a shelf is like F your knickknacks, and you're like,
yes,
no.
exactly.
Right. Well, yeah, well, I think, the room that you're in is so beautiful, but it's so well thought out. I shouldn't say you're fortunate because it was deliberate and you worked hard to get it, but you are set up right to do exactly what I think you want to do, which is to provide big enclosures with really great environmental controls. And so I think that that's something that people should go over and look at is how you set that up because Lisa did like she went from groundbreaking on up with her YouTube videos. You are much well, you're from technology in your background and your career, so you are just much more fluent in that, and I think that that was a really useful thing to see. And as somebody who would like to build a facility or build out a warehouse space or something, I started to see some things that I would do from you. And the other thing I would tell you is you're describing your other room and how it was not quite proper. But I think that's also probably was an important learning phase for you,
Yes.
um, to know what you needed and what you wanted.
And I knew what I didn't want, you know.
Exactly.
And you know, I knew I didn't want to have to use a ladder.
Yeah,
And and the other reason is, you know, it just when you have to use a ladder to get to your enclosures, it really it discourages you from spending time with your boas.
sure.
And I'm a person who really enjoys spending time with my boas. All of my boas are handled on a regular basis, and they're all and I think due to that they're all pretty docile. I mean, this
Sure.
guy is an example of that. I mean, Terrahumaras are a really nice, docile species. They start off a little hissy,
Hmm.
but they're really a wonderful, chill species. But even my species that are maybe a little more edgy,
Right.
some of my BCC, for example, the North Brazilians tend to be a little more edgy. They're all wonderful because they get a lot of time with me and they learn I'm no threat,
Sure.
I have that boa gym in the back, so they get exercise, they get to spend time on that, they explore all the different things on it, the swings, the ladders, the ropes.
Sure.
So they get good muscle tone. That was something I really wanted to have as a central feature. So that was something I planned for in the room, was to have that central space where they could get good exercise aside from climbing on me.
Yeah. Oh, I think that is actually one of the coolest things. The amount of space you have in the center with the jungle gym, and it probably also allows you to get a big table when you're servicing in there or a cart or
Yes.
something, right? And so,
Yes, and my baby room, which is off to that direction,
yep.
the baby room has a big table in it too.
Hmm.
So when I take bins out, I can put them on the table
Sure.
and do whatever I need to do with the bins.
Yeah.
I also have a wonderful utility room with a big double sink with a sprayer.
Yeah.
The sink doesn't have a divider in the middle, so I can take the bins and put them right into the sink,
Yeah.
and it makes cleaning.
Yeah.
And I've got a high pressure sprayer, so I can clean everything out, soak things. It's wonderful.
That's one of the things I covet most about your new space is that big commercial wash sink. And
Yes,
so and
that's
the
that's a
other thing,
lifesaver.
and you don't have cabinets above because I bust my knuckles all the time doing that. I have a friend who's heavily tattooed on his hands. He's like, I don't have hand tattoos anymore because of it. So, yeah, I think that was all part of your thought out plan. So, I guess, going back to you're saying, do you think your true red tails are the like most nervous or a little more strong than, or because you have what, 10, 11 localities now?
I have 11 different types of locality boas, and then I
Okay.
have one morph boa. He's
Okay.
my lone morph boa, and I have him just because he's so cool.
Yeah.
He's just the nicest guy.
Yeah. More
Um,
boastful too.
But my localities, I would say that of them, they all have slightly different personalities, and the North Brazilians tend to be maybe just a little bit edgier.
Mhm.
They're still very handleable.
Sure.
But they're a boa that, for example, the males in particular, they're always moving their tails around.
Yeah.
Like when you're holding them, their tails are always whipping around.
Yeah. It's kind of offensive sometimes they'll smack you and you're like, oh.
Yeah. And I'm like trying to get a picture of those beautiful tails, and they're like,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. The true red tails, I think people always gravitate towards them and they hear about them because it is the true red tail, which I even like that name. It's like I kind of want to rebrand a boa imperador as an emperor boa, just
Yeah.
because I think that the way we perceive these animals affects how we treat these animals, and I think
Yes.
we're all deserving of that. And I think what you're speaking to is something that I've kind of tried to mention is the true red tail boas are the superlative boa, both in terms of for me, they are it. They are the coolest, but also they are more demanding. They are very big. They Mine are just a little edgier, a little less tractable. They're not aggressive, but I do have a couple that I would consider a little snappy. I have a number of them from breeding projects and things, and so I think you do. I think that you manage those things both because you have these handling routines. You were telling me, what do you do it on? Snake Log? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I use an app that's I really like it. It's actually you don't have to pay for it, but you can contribute. I think there's a
Okay,
name for that type of app.
sure. Yeah.
And it's called Sneklog, like
Oh, okay. Perfect.
SNEKLOG.
Yeah.
And it's a web app. And I really like it because I can track all the different parameters I like to track. It has alerts for the types of things I want to have alerts on, and it's fairly configurable. So
Sure.
I can customize the types of things I want to customize as well.
Great.
And you know, when you get a fairly large size collection, you start to, you know, you start to get to the point where you can't keep all these things in your head,
No.
you know, you just can't. I've done a few things to simplify some of my keeping routines. Like I did simplify things around feeding a little
Mhm.
bit because I got to a point where it was starting to get tough to remember who was getting fed when.
Right.
And I really liked the video, by the way, you just did on feeding.
Oh.
The concept of getting stuck to the heat for 3 to 4 days. That
Oh,
was
thank you.
really interesting, and
Yeah.
I
Behavioral
want to think
guidelines.
on that some. But you know, with the size of my collection, what I found I had to do was break my population down into groups of frequency, mostly frequency of feeding.
Mhm.
So my young boas, my really young ones that are less than a year old, are broken down into two groups: the 7 day and the 10 day group.
Gotcha.
Uh,
Yeah.
and and then, you know, and they're on very small prey items.
Sure.
Either, you know, I think my smallest right now are on large fuzzies,
Yep. Hmm.
and these boas are, you know, a year old or younger.
Sure. Yeah.
And
Okay.
and then I have, you know, the boas that are older, you know, 1 to 2 years old, are in a 2 week time
Hmm.
frame, 2 weeks, and they're usually, you know, starting in, they're getting, you know, getting into small to large mice.
Sure.
And then I've got, and then now again, it depends on the species, and you alluded to this too in your video.
Mhm.
My BCCs and my amaryllis I bring along very slowly because they have much more sensitive digestive systems.
Mhm. Definitely.
And I find that if you introduce, you know, hairy prey items
Yep.
too quickly or large prey items too quickly, you're going to run into trouble, and you don't want to get into that regurgitation cycle.
Good.
So I will have, you know, the same type of boa that's an imperator-based boa
Hmm.
on a larger prey item at the same age as I will a BCC or an Amarilli.
Yeah.
And so I've got that 2 week group, and then I've got my 3 week group and a month group. And those are how I kind of keep it straight. And I use
Yeah.
Outlook calendar to
Mhm.
remind me, and I use my SNEC log.
Yeah. Sounds good. I'm just getting I'm getting Zoom's trying to Zoom's trying to sell me a premium account. Hold on, I'm exiting it out. So, but yeah, I think what you're talking about is the evolution from going from having a couple pet boas to having a collection. And, you know, I talk about herd management and you're doing things for the herd. And like the way I've come to settle on how I feed is depending on the time of year. When I work with Australian pythons, which are really fast metabolism. So when I have those babies, I'm feeding everything on a 5 day cycle or multiples of. So those baby children's python are getting fed pinkies every 5 days. Then all my baby boas are every 10 days. Then all the adolescents are every 15 days. And then
Yep.
20. Or when I don't have those real young babies, I do 7 day and then multiples of. So, because the other thing you'll find is if you're just trying to get on these all their weird feeding routines is not only is it intractable, but there's always food scent in the room when you're trying to maintain things,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, now one thing I think we have about 9 minutes left. So,
Okay.
but so what I think we could do is I kind of want to talk about um, maybe an introduction to what you would consider some things for somebody starting out in the hobby about and what they should be considering, what type of caging, maybe a good locality recommendation for them. And beyond that, if we run short on time, I would love to have you back or I'd love to show up on your channel. So
Great.
I don't think this is the last
Yeah.
of you. So go ahead and I'm going to just let you kind of give it out and I will go like this and give you a 2 minute warning and a 1 minute.
Okay.
We'll go from there, but you
Well,
have the floor.
I think, you know, one of the things that's so important when you're starting out is to do some research.
Sure.
And I think, you know, there's a lot of sources for information now. There didn't used to be.
Hmm.
But now you really have a lot of opportunity. And I think, one of the most important things is to learn about the different species of boas. And I think people ask a lot of times, what is your favorite species? What do you think is the best species to start with? And I think, some of it comes down to what is the species that gets the potential keeper, the most excited? Because this is an animal that you're going to have, for a good 20, 25, 30 years,
Yeah, definitely.
potentially. And you want it to be something that really gets you excited and, that you really want to learn about and keep.
Mhm.
And so I would say, start off with a boa or an animal, any animal really that gets you really passionate about it. Something that you find beautiful or something that, something about it gets you excited. So that's the
Sure.
first thing.
Okay.
The second thing is, look at its husbandry requirements. Find out if you can meet those husbandry requirements. If this is an animal that's going to get extremely large, like let's say it's a mainland retic,
Right.
that's an animal that's going to get to be huge.
Right.
So are you going to have the space for that?
The reality check of that, right?
Right, that's going to need maybe a whole room at some point,
Right.
water features, whatever.
Neither of us
I'm
can have
not
the
an expert
collection.
in,
Go
you
ahead.
know,
Sorry. Yeah.
yeah, I'm not an expert in retext, so I can't speak to what all they need. But I can tell you that one of the reasons I decided to specialize in small, dwarf, small to mid-size
Hmm.
boas is that I know I can provide the proper husbandry for that size range of boa throughout
Good.
its life cycle. And for example, this boa I have in my hand here is almost an adult. He will be 4 feet maximum
So
when
cool.
he's fully grown. And this is a perfect boa for someone to start out with, really. I mean,
What is that
he's
again?
gorgeous.
Remind people.
This is a Terra Humera mountain boa,
Yeah, that's
and
awesome.
he will be 4 feet at maturity. He's probably close to, he's probably getting like close to that now.
He's close to mature. I've seen an adult male in person. It's phenomenal how small they are.
Yeah, they're
So
very small. He's wonderful. He's been hanging out on my hand the whole time we've been talking.
yeah.
They're just great little animals. And he's got them. I don't know if it's showing up on camera, but he's absolutely spectacular. He's got amazing coral color on his belly, beautiful patterns. I love these boas.
Yeah.
So, this is a great animal to start with. Another boa I'd recommend highly is the Longicauda boa.
That's my
These are the
number one.
Peruvian longtails, and they are not so fancy when you first get them as babies. They
Hmm.
kind of all look very similar.
Sure.
They're kind of brownish gray. Well, a lot of boas are kind of brownish gray when they first start out, but they have that natural increasing melanin gene, and they become highly contrast. They get a highly contrasted pattern as they get older and just get spectacular.
And they just
But
change,
they're
get a new boa every couple months.
every shed.
Yeah.
It's just incredible to watch them change, and they really are beautiful. They don't get huge,
No.
and probably like 6 feet max.
Yeah, I think both of these, I think Longicatas, one for context, I tell people they both weigh less than a big adult ball python, you know.
Yes,
And
yes,
and when people see these big beautiful enclosures behind you and you're putting full-size bows in like true red tails and things. And one point I would make is people with a smaller animal, you can do the same quality of care in a smaller footprint. And
sure,
you know,
absolutely.
and that's everybody has limitations. We both live rurally. If we lived in Manhattan, our homes would be smaller and we'd be keeping something tiny, and so
Yes.
I think that's the size thing. I think you're well able to handle a full-size boa. I don't think there's anything about your skill or your physicality that couldn't, but I think that point is super well made.
Yeah, my largest boa currently is about 7.5 feet,
Mhm.
and she's a big, hefty girl.
Yes,
But she's got a wonderful nature.
sure.
I can hang her over my shoulders and walk around with her, and she's wonderful.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
I don't take her out right now because I think she is working on making me babies.
That's the hard,
But
that's a hard thing. The more because there's a lot of breeding in your future, even though it's not your focus. I think that's the natural outcome of your great care. I think that one of the hardest parts for me is you get to handle your animals less. Like,
yes,
like people ask me, how often do you handle that adult female? I'm like, well, not at all for the year that I'm breeding her.
that's right. It's very hard for me to look in on her and not pick her up and take her out. It's very hard.
Yeah, definitely. So, but yeah, I think so if somebody wanted to get a locality boa, you would say choose something that you desire and that you're
Yep,
enthralled with. Do your research.
yep. The
Get
next,
Go ahead.
oh, and husbandry.
Yep.
But another important thing that I'd really recommend is find a trusted breeder.
Yeah.
Um, I would really advise against, just going to a pet store
Mhm.
or even like just impulse buying. Don't do it. There are, once you
2 minutes, by
know
the way.
the
2 minutes. So don't panic. But yes, go ahead. So yeah.
once you know the type of boa you're interested in, go find a breeder that's recommended. Someone like Evan, for example.
Thank you. Yeah.
Go to someone you can trust who will support you in the future when you have questions.
Yeah, these are especially with locality bows, they're very niche animals. And I describe buying from, I don't say that you have to buy from me, but I say buy from somebody like me. When you buy from
Mhm.
somebody like me, or once you start producing animals, you're buying basically from the farmer's market. You're buying directly from somebody who has a home-based process where they are focusing all their passions. They're bringing this wholesome, robust, healthy animal to you. They're giving it to you and they care about your experience because they care about the animal and they
100%.
so yeah, I think that that's a really good thing to think about. And you have less than a minute left, so if there's anything else you'd like to say, but if not, I'm going to say, can I please have you back on my channel some more?
I would love that. I'd be honored.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And Lisa, we need to keep this up for both the YouTube channel just because I think you're the best. And so I hope you have a wonderful evening. And I'm gonna get this uploaded and I'm gonna send it over to you because I'm excited about this. This was great, Lisa. Thank you so
I
much.
had so much fun.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.